Economic and financial crimes and other forms of corruption and their devastating effects have become so pervasive that there is need to embark on a change of attitude, mindset, and behavior. All around us, we see consequences of corruption, especially committed by those who take decisions on our behalf. These are people whose level of corruption or otherwise impact on majority of us due to lack of basic amenities and hardship as a result of wealth being in their hands. Those few tremendously rich people whose only advantage is their being in position of power and authority in government or its corridors. Today, we shall be looking at corruption in high places, the effect of grand corruption on our people and the economy. My name is Aisha Muhammad, and presenting with me is
Abbas Abubakar Omar. It is sad that some people don't see corruption as a monster that draws us back in our march to the promised land. And we verily, unfortunately, there is a blame game and finger pointing from all sides. But we must all come together to the truth that whether high or low places, whether in private or public places, corruption is a cancer that eats up the beautiful fabric of our society.
Fighting grand corruption requires all stakeholders to come together and fight the monster with any available resources at their disposal. For us at the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission EFCC, we boast of some of the best and most courageous human resources available to any law enforcement in the world. That is why today we want to start by looking at the recent passing out parade of Detective Assistant Cadet DA Cos 5, which was held at the Ende Hills, Akwanga, Nasarawa State. Mardia Umar tells us more.
The EFCC chairman Olaolu Koide has charged the newly commissioned Detective Assistant Cadet, Course 5 of the Commission, to imbibe the culture of integrity and discipline in the discharge of their duties. Olukoide gave the charge during the passing out parade ceremony of the cadets, numbering 169 at Nigeria Police Mobile Training College, Ende Hills, Nasarawa State. He noted that the cadets were not only groomed in law enforcement but in ethics, discipline and leadership, and charged them to uphold EFCC's core values of integrity, courage, professionalism and collaborations. The EFCC chairman stressed that as new officers of the EFCC, the cadets are a critical part of the mission of the Commission to eradicate economic and financial crimes through prevention, enforcement and coordination. He reminded them that the task that lay ahead of them as anti-corruption officers was a national challenge for the good of the country in accordance with the mission of the EFCC.
I'm delighted to be here today on this occasion of the passing out parade of our newly trained Detective Assistant Course 5 cadets. This event marks the culmination of months of rigorous training, discipline, and academic exercises, all aimed at preparing these young men and women for the crucial task of combating economic and financial crimes in Nigeria.
Speaking further, the EFCC boss noted that the future and well-being of the country is tied to the unrelenting sustenance of the fight against corruption, economic and financial crimes. In his remarks, the Executive Governor of Nasarawa State, Engineer Abdullahi A. Sule, noted that the EFCC needed enough manpower as well as the involvement of all well-meaning Nigerians to achieve success in the anti-corruption fight, adding that the coming on board of the fresh cadet further demonstrates the commitment of the government of President Tinubu to strengthen the EFCC and improve the quality of its manpower for effective service delivery. The governor stated that leaders at various tiers of government have a responsibility to support agencies like the EFCC in this critical fight, and it is for this reason Nasarawa State, having reconsidered the critical role of the EFCC, pulled them out from the legal tussle against the EFCC regarding its statutory powers. He further reiterated that Nasarawa State is the home of solid minerals and the sector represent a new frontier for investment which needs the assistance of agencies such as the EFCC to enhance transparency and build investors' confidence in the economy, as well as promote the ease of doing business, essentially in boosting revenue in the critical artery of the economy.
I need to mention that We cannot move forward as a nation if we do not confront and eradicate corruption. Leaders at various tiers of government have a responsibility to support the agencies like the EFCC in this critical fight. It is for this reason that Nasarawa State, having reconsidered the critical role of the EFCC, decided to pull out from the legal tussle against the EFCC regarding its statutory powers. And I assure you of our continued support to enable the EFCC attain its mandate.
The chairman, House Committee on Financial Crimes, Honorable Ginger Obinna Onwusibe, tasked the new officers on professionalism, integrity, honesty, confidentiality and discretion, adding that the officers must encourage individuals to report suspicious transactions and provide protection for whistleblowers.
You should count yourself as lucky that you have been selected amongst a whole lot of Nigerians to come to serve in this very sensitive area of combating crime. Talking of promoting whistleblower protection, you must encourage individuals to report suspicious transactions and provide protection for whistleblowers.
The representative of the Chairman Senate Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crime, Senator Diket Blanc, described the EFCC as the image maker of the country, adding that Nigerians are watching and expecting a lot from the Commission. He urged the new cadets to be mindful of their actions on their new assignments as Nigerians are watching with a lot of expectations.
Today, we are witnessing the passing out parade of about 169 assistant cadet detectives. And for us, for me, and for us in the Senate, this is a welcome idea because these are economic and financial sojourns to our nation. You will be out to do a lot of jobs to add image, to improve the economy of our nation, and to put Nigerians right. I congratulate you, first of all, for finding yourself in this position. And I would like to tell you that Nigerians are watching at you with a lot of expectation.
On his part, the commandant of the Police Mobile Training College Ender Hills, DCP Sunday Audu Peter, congratulated the cadets and urged them to put the proper use the training they received in the discharge of their duties.
Today, we are witnessing the passing out of these young, vibrant, intelligent Nigerians. When they came here, they were raw as we say, raw civilian. They did not know how to raise the left leg or the right leg. But today you can see for yourself what we've been able to do. We process them. We are handing them over to you, sir. Unleash them to the Nigerian community to cleanse up the community, to cleanse up the society, rid off of all unwanted elements and attributes that draw us back as a country.
Out of the total of 169 detective assistant cadets that passed out, 11 distinguished themselves in different areas of study and operational activities and were honored with awards. Agucha Ugochukwu Lotana was awarded Best Overall Cadet, with the first and second runner-up awards going to Anani One Melche and Adutu Joy Uyo. Uyo also emerged the best in legal studies. Muhammad Kabir Sanusi was awarded the Executive Chairman Award in Command and Leadership. He also emerged the best cadet in drill and was also the parade commander. Lowell Lawrence emerged the best in operational studies. Oguzi Promise Yefia emerged the best cadet in general studies, while Abba Favor Billy emerged the best in ICT. Joshua Princeville emerged the best Maxman, and Oviang Bede Precious emerged the best Max Woman.
Welcome back. According to Edward Digby Balzel, an American sociologist, academic and author, the downfall of every civilization comes not from the moral corruption of the common man, but rather from the moral complacency of the common men in high places. Let's now go to the interview segment where Miracle Chukwu Agoziem and our guests will be shedding light on the topic corruption in high places, the effects of grand corruption on the economy. Over to you, Miracle.
Grand corruption or corruption in high places is not just about shady deals and stolen funds. It's a destructive force that erodes trust, suppresses development, and widens inequality and incompetency in all sectors. It also encourages capital flight, where monies meant for development are sent abroad into private banks in offshore accounts. Most of the time, you hear many Nigerians blaming anti-corruption and law enforcement agencies for not catching those they call the big men, the people in power, and those we call politically exposed persons, PEP. This assertion is expected coming from those who suffer the devastating effects of corruption. However, it is unfortunately erroneous, considering that the anti-corruption war, even against these categories of highly placed individuals, had over the years successfully brought many of them to justice. In all this, the questions on how exactly it impacts the economy, what could be done to combat it, and most importantly, what roles the citizens play in helping agencies like the EFCC. We will unpack these questions and more in today's interview segment with my guest, DCE Eze Johnson, 2IC Department of Fraud Risk Assessment and Control, EFCC. You're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
What is grand corruption, and possibly if you can give us an example of this grand corruption?
Well, grand corruption is usually called high-level corruption. It's corruption basically perpetrated by people in high office, basically. And, definitions out there will tell you either define corruption by the grand corruption by the perpetrators or by scale, like I usually say. So scale would be the size, and also the impact of that corruption perpetrated by people in high office. Of course, types of this corruption would be things like embezzlement, things like kickback, things like conflict of interest.
From the research and, your dealings with cases in the commission, what, in your opinion, is or are the causes of this grand corruption?
Causes of grand corruption in our country, it will still be the same issues around weak systems. It will be the issues around even our perception of corruption. I'm sure you are aware that a lot of people do not see a lot of things we call corruption as corruption. They see it as greasing the hands, thank you, our custom permits this. So some of those things really affect and perpetuate corruption in our country.
What are the effects, or what will you say are the effects of this grand corruption?
Can tell you, for one, it has caused a whole lot of apathy, amongst the citizenry. Because, you see, there's this thing the political scientists call the contract, social contract between the citizenry and government. They are the ones who put them there, and they are the principal. In law, you say principal agent theory, Yes. So whenever there is a dissonance in that relationship, there's distrust. So yes, it has caused a lot of distrust between the electorate and those that are elected into government. That's one. Secondly, we see it everywhere. Collapsing infrastructure, for instance, is one of the direct effects of grand corruption. Literal, actual deaths happen because of grand corruption when infrastructure, for instance, collapses due to embezzlement of the funds that were earmarked to put them properly in place in the first instance were not used for that purpose.
So, considering the effect you just talked about, what could be done, holistically, from the angle of the government and even the commission and other stakeholders to prevent this grand corruption?
Wow, a lot. I can immediately tell you that thankfully the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has continued to show a lot of political will in this direction. Interestingly, the chairman of the EFCC never stops to say how he has a lot of free hand to do the work he does, and that's a good thing. Political will is very, very necessary in the fight against grand corruption. Another thing that is necessary in the fight against grand corruption from the part of government would be enabling the judiciary. Okay, systems of accountability need to be enabled. Thankfully, we have begun to see signs of that improving in the judicial space, with improvements in the circumstance of our judicial officers, both their work circumstance and their personal circumstances. So that, for me, is government putting their feet where their mouth is. So that is necessary to cause a turnaround, on ground corruption. Okay. Now, for an organization like the EFCC, and by that I mean anti-corruption agencies generally, a lot is going on in holding people account for grand corruption. You probably have noticed that we have been getting a lot of convictions, in this regard. I know before now people used to feel that these people up there, big politicians, were like sacred cows. But if you look at the records of the EFCC, you will notice that a lot of those sacred cows have been brought to book or are in the process of being brought to book. It is important that the space is also increased for civil society organizations, non-governmental organizations, even media organizations, to actually provide independent pressure on government, to be accountable for their activities.
What are the challenges the Commission face to, fight this grand corruption?
I can immediately tell you that the Commission, law enforcement organizations generally, and specifically the EFCC, faces the challenge of apathy amongst the populace. I can tell you that. Because because of the lack of trust or distrust or diminishing trust I referred to earlier, there's this lack of willingness of the people, the citizenry, to engage with the process. So that in itself is a challenge for anti-corruption agencies like the EFCC, because they therefore need to do a whole lot of work to get the citizens to believe. Be that as it may, the EFCC has taken the bull by the horns, and it has very extensive programs of public education, public enlightenment, public awareness, public sensitization, both in real time and in recorded formats, in social media and in traditional formats, just to reach out to its people across Nigeria, Nigerians, to communicate the need to hold our leaders responsible, demand, expect accountability from our leaders. That's why we have this popular mantra: you see something, you say something.
Yes.
So that would be one challenge that is faced. Another challenge that is faced in the fight against corruption, specifically economic and financial crimes in Nigeria, is the challenge of very long time it takes to prosecute corruption cases. I know we have talked so much about this over time, but we can't say it's enough. You say justice delayed is justice denied. A lot of people, in my experience, even die expecting justice. When you file a motion and that motion takes 5 years before a motion is even heard, or it takes 2 years before it's even heard, that kind of a thing. I know a lot of things happen, but the perception that, hey, this thing is going another way, it's not going in favor of the complainant, immediately sends the wrong signal. So that in itself is a challenge, I can tell you.
So before I let you go, DCE, what are your advice or your parting words to those listening or watching us on this effect of grand corruption on the economy?
To answer that question, I want to say something. I want to say that the Commission, the EFCC, is doing a whole lot of work in this direction. I wanted to, I know you didn't ask, but I want to quickly say this, that the current leadership of the EFCC has set up the Fraud Risk Assessment and Control Department. And that is really a fraud prevention department. And the idea is this. The idea is that it is the biggest bastion against corruption, whether it's petty or big, is the development or strengthening of institutions. So what FRAC does, like we call it, is that it helps to improve the institution itself, to restore controls in those institutions, to improve the ability of those institutions to perform their mandate. Because see, at the end of the day, it is the performance of the stated mandate of those institutions that improves our GDP, that restores faith of the people in those institutions. So what the Commission is doing is, for instance, starting out with the procurement systems of MDAs, especially at the federal level. The Commission is helping, working hand in hand with those MDAs to ensure that the problem, in other words, the money doesn't get stolen in the first instance.
Yes.
That when the money doesn't get stolen, then the money will be available to perform the mandate of those agencies and ministries and departments of government. In that way, and now this is where it comes to your direct question. It's in that way that our people will begin to see more of the effect of government business, in their locality. So what I will say, therefore, to the people as a parting word is a lot is being done. A lot is being done. A lot is being done. If you see something, however, that is not going right, there are a lot of EFCC handles on social media handles that you can quickly report. Do not hesitate. Do not shy away from it. Do not feel so despondent and apathetic. And say things like, what can my reporting do?
Yes.
Don't say that. Just report. After all, it's an African proverb that says, it's one drop of rain, many drops of rain that fill a river.
My name is Miracle Chukwagoziem. Back to the studio for the rest of the program.
And that's where we draw the curtains on today's episode of The Eagle. We will be back next week with another interesting episode. Let's keep the conversation going. Send us an email at info@efcc.gov.ng or call us on 0809 3322 644. Also follow us on Facebook, X and Instagram.
If you notice or suspect any economic and financial crime happening anywhere, anytime, simply use EFCC's mobile eye app Eagle Eye to report. Let me also invite you to a live discussion with EFCC on EFCC Connect, happening on our Twitter Spaces and Facebook every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Do you have burning questions to ask the EFCC? EFCC Connect is the right platform to do so. And also listen to EFCC Radio 97.3 FM, the voices against economic and financial crimes. I am Abbas Abubakar.
And I am Aisha Mohammed. Remember, your role is in the fight against corruption is a civic one. It is a patriotic duty for all of us. So say something when you see something happening, and the EFCC will surely do something about it. Goodbye. God bless Nigeria. Be kind to yourself and to others around you.